good to go. You're listening to the Inside Scoop, where we lift the lid on the people behind the pints, pillows and plates. And today we're joined by someone who has been helping shape what it means to work at ICG, People Director Liz Robertson. Liz, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Let's start with your story. So how did you first get into HR? Was it always something you wanted to do?
So no, it wasn't something I always wanted to do, but I suppose if I look back, my degree choice when I went to university was anthropology and geography, and I ended up doing human geography. So I suppose I was always interested in people from the off. Didn't really know HR existed. Started waitressing whilst I was working through uni, and then ended up at a hotel working in leisure sales, and that's when I got interested in HR. They offered me a free placement, doing some administration work, and the rest is history really. I started my CIPD and worked my way up.
You've had some really varied parts of your career over the HR industry. Were there any moments along the way that helped you approach people and culture today?
Definitely, and I think you learn all the time. So that evolves. Even now, I'm kind of learning and things that influence from a people and culture point of view. But ironically, the clear standout for me was actually working for an individual that I saw crush a culture, and sort of witnessing that and how that individual sort of managed and micromanaged, and the influence and the impact of that in a wider organisation, and the negative impact on culture that made me really make a distinct change in my career, but also sent me a very clear message around what not to do.
Do you feel like it inspired you to do the things that you do now?
Completely.
Yeah.
So where there was a lack of investment in people, a lack of investment in learning and developing, and when I came to the InCollection group, I made a deliberate attempt to very much do things differently.
So the InCollection came into the picture. What made you think this is the right chapter for you?
Okay, so on the off, I think I wobbled about getting into hospitality, if I'm really honest with you, because I thought that there wouldn't be investment in people or the investment I was craving. But I was convinced to read a little bit more into the InCollection group and what they were doing, and the way Sean spoke about people and a desire to really grow people and invest in people was what got me interested. And I absolutely have had autonomy and freedom to be able to go after that area of the business.
Let's talk about what's going on right now. What are some big things you and the people team are focusing on this year? Except for this podcast.
Communication is a huge area. It's key. It comes out in our engagement surveys. Engagement surveys are always a big deal for us. They form part of our people's strategy in terms of what we need to really go after. The learning experience platform is probably the biggest thing that we're rolling out as a people team. But that's striving for personal development. We'll see the culmination of the Lead in the Business programme, which has been an amazing programme that we've gone after, which has had so much success, and we'll be launching the new one. So that'll be exciting as well to go again. The development of Chef Academy, as you'll be very well aware, goes from strength to strength, and it's really encouraging to see that grassroots kitchen development. And we've been going after some really exciting stuff from a recruitment point of view in terms of looking at our employer brand, how we represent what we are as a business and how we attract the right talent into the business, as well as how we can better support sites to get key talent into the business. So there's some key areas that we've been going after there as well.
So the mention obviously the new e-learning platform. What made you decide that this was the right time to bring in something new?
So if I'm honest, it's been a bit of a whirlwind since I joined. I'm coming up to 4 years. I can't believe it's 4 years. And when I joined, we had to go after an applicant tracking system and foremost because there was nothing. And that was really clunky for our managers to be able to onboard and get people. The natural next step was moving around away from S4, which was also really clunky, and I think our managers struggled, and we certainly weren't getting enough data out of it from a people point of view. So because we had CPL, I suppose the learning management system was last on the list, but it was also one that had huge frustration from our point. It was there before I arrived. It was really just a compliance platform. We knew we wanted to develop personal growth and we knew we wanted to reach all colleagues. And it was coming through in the engagement surveys that the workshops and the programs were really, really successful. But actually, how could we reach a wider audience with more learning and more learning that was suited to what those individuals wanted? So the learning experience platform was an obvious choice to go for 2025, and I'm really excited about what it's going to deliver for people.
What do you think and what you're hoping that would change for people in sites?
So I'm hoping that they get more access to learning that they want. There's also an amazing feature where they can request content. So there's a learning needs part where they can kind of put in what they're interested in, why, and that'll help feed the content so we can either bespoke that individually, or if there's a real trend across the business for a certain content, we can understand that and we can develop something a bit more sophisticated.
Let's get into something that's been a big focus recently, Best Companies Engagement Survey. For anyone who's not familiar with it, can you tell us what it is and why you decided to go with it?
So Best Companies is an accredited third-party provider that runs engagement surveys for a whole host of companies, right through leisure, hospitality, tech, big businesses, small businesses. What really drew me in was they had 8 different factors that they looked in, which completely resonated with us from a reason to want to be engaged in your workplace. And they range from the things you would expect. So fundamentally, my manager. So what is that relationship? Because that's a key factor. To including things like well-being, personal growth, and giving back, which was key to us. We just launched our giving back scheme within sites when I was kind of investigating surveys. They're also accredited, so they give you a rating, and it's like a Michelin star rating, where a good company will be something like one to watch from a scoring point of view, and then you rank up there from 1 star, 2 star and 3 star. 3 star being world class, 1 star being very good company to work for. And that felt exciting as well, that we could strive to go after that accreditation, be really proud of it, use it as a recruitment tool, but also see how we could make improvements.
So obviously with the engagement survey, it's really key that people are honest. How do you go about getting genuine responses from all the teams?
I think the accreditation and the fact that it's a third party has helped with that. So there's some very specific questions, and there's some very specific restrictions that we have to abide to in terms of releasing the data back out to us. Best companies are really key on protecting the anonymity of their survey participants. I do think it's taken a bit of time to build up trust to get that honesty. So there was definitely reticence from colleagues early on, and we had to work really hard to say it absolutely is anonymous. Please trust us. Some sites have performed better there. So in terms of building that trust as well, so we've still got a long way to go with some sites, but we can definitely feel the momentum. I mean, the last survey was nearly a 72% response rate, which against the market from a hospitality point of view, nearly 60% of hospitality providers are declining in response rate. We've gone up. We've worked really hard at that, and I'm really proud of that as well.
So the results obviously come in for the one that we did last month. What stood out to you? Were there any surprises? What did you think of it all?
So I think the first thing, if I'm honest with you, was we maintained our 1-star accreditation, and we went up in Best Companies has a what they call a BCI index, and that's your index points, and we went up 5 points in that. I think what stood out to me about that, whilst that doesn't sound phenomenal, is that, as I just said, from a response rate point of view, hospitality is declining, but what's really interesting is all companies are declining in their BCI score. So like over 50% have seen a decline of 20 points or more. So it really felt like we were bucking the trend. And actually, it has been a challenging start to the year. So I was fully anticipating that we would slide down to a one to watch. So the first thing that surprised me was the fact that we maintained our 1-star accreditation and went up in points as well.
Why do you think ICG has gone against the grain?
I think we've had an action plan and we've had key areas that we've gone after, and what was really positive to see was that we'd gone up in all of those 3 key action areas. So personal growth, giving back and well-being were our 3 action areas. And as a company, we've really put investment and time behind all of those 3 areas. Personal growth in particular, from April of last year, has gone up 3 percentage points. That's blown me away. I know it doesn't sound much, but actually in the scheme of the scales up, that's a phenomenal growth. And we're now above any other 1-star companies on a benchmarking point of view by plus 1% from a personal growth point of view.
So obviously you just spoke about action plans. So from this survey that's just come out, what are the action plans going to continue from here?
So we've still got work to do. So we're still uncovering the data, and the people partners are out at the moment with the sites and with the regions, disseminating sort of that information and going through it with sites to look at their site-specific action plans. The directors are also, we're doing a deeper dive. We've never had the opportunity to do this with Best Companies before, but we're doing a deeper dive on the data on the 21st of May. Interestingly, at the moment, for the first time, really since we've run the surveys in Best Companies, the 3 action areas aren't coming out as personal growth, well-being. Giving back, to be fair, is still there, because we're still minus 4%, but there's a huge shift and focus on environment as opposed to giving back to the local community. But it's very much pointing in the direction of areas like my team, so that social connection piece, leadership, my company and my manager as areas that we need to look at. So we'll do the same though. We'll go back through those data and dig a bit more deeply and decide actually what levers can we pull and how can we focus on those key areas.
I imagine there were some real highlights and some sites that might want to be celebrated that did really well.
Yeah.
Would you like to discuss that with us?
Well, so 16 of our sites saw positive movement, which was so over half, which was phenomenal. Some stayed there or thereabouts, a few did drop. So we obviously need to look at that and understand why that's happening. We had 7 sites with 3-star accreditation for their site, which is world class. That is up from last year. We had 5 last year. We had 2 2-star sites last year. We've got 4 this year, so we've doubled in that. So we've seen a real move into positivity, and some of them with absolutely phenomenal response rates. So Commissioners has to top the chart with 100% and an amazing 3-star world-class result. But other recognisable ones were Hogshead with a massive 94% response rate. That was an incredible achievement, and I can see Sean and the team have worked really hard on that, and they grew their BCI score as well. With that high response rate, to grow your BCI is incredible. King's Lodge were another one that really sort of jumped up as well. They've been focusing loads on their growing conversations, and that was evident in the engagement survey results. So yeah, King's Lodge, Lindisfarne remained consistently strong, Ambleside remained consistently strong, so there was some clear standout performers.
So who, out of all the sites, who are the biggest movers?
So definitely Ullswater went from almost kind of being the bottom in the last survey and shot up to being a 2-star. That was a mega result. We also saw Amble with some really significant movement, and King's Lodge, to be fair, was another one. I know I've mentioned them previously, but they've also had significant movement.
So we want to keep the momentum going.
Mm-hmm.
We have another one obviously coming up later in the year.
Yeah.
How do you see that going? How do you see it continuing?
For me, it has to live and breathe in sites. So we have to, from a company perspective, we'll have our action areas, and we will, so for all we're looking at a range of different areas, we'll be continuing with things like personal growth and our belief in that. And we'll also be looking at kind of, I think it's communication, if I'm honest. I think we're getting stuck on communication, so figuring that out. But when I look at the results and the sites that have done phenomenally well, it's because I know they live and breathe the action plan. So coming up with that action plan, sticking to it, talking to your colleagues, and it doesn't matter if there's bumps along the way. No, but I think it's important to feel like we can't get it perfect all of the time, very far from that. But where we can show that we're working, we're listening, we're understanding, we're trying to progress, I think that makes a massive difference.
That's it for the first ever episode of Inside Scoop. Huge thanks to Liz Robertson for giving us a look behind the scenes of what makes ICG a great place to work. Before you go, Liz, we've got a little tradition on our podcast. Can you leave our next guest a question to answer?
I was thinking about this. So I think what I would like you to ask is if they, whoever it is, were to sell ICG as a hospitality career to go into, what is the 3 top things that they would lean on?
We'll pass that on and see what they say next time. Until then, thanks for tuning in.